Well, welcome. We're welcoming ourselves into your home is what we're doing.
Hey,
Hey, welcome. Hello, and Merry Christmas. This is a incredible day for us to take a moment and kind of push pause before you open your presents. Here's what Pastor Wayne and I picture. That today we're not having our large gathering together, but in your homes, you're playing this and you are sitting by your tree. This is what I'm picturing in my mind. And there's presents under the tree and you're watching this video. And I can already imagine that many of us are just kind of going, can this video get over with so we can get to opening presents? And that's kind of the theme of why we wanted you to watch this, is because there's always been people who get excited about other things and they actually miss the true gift, the gift of Jesus. They miss the true gift. And because people do that, because I've done that, because I've been one who has been one who's kind of got excited about other things and missed Jesus because I get excited about temporary things. And the true love of Christ, what we want to do is kind of take a moment and just say, let's not look at the flashy, the temporal, the exciting things, but let's look at the true, life-giving, pure love of the gift of God in the person of Jesus. And as Wayne and I were kind of preparing to talk about this, both of us talked about just a couple of things. And we're going to talk about the humility of Jesus and the closeness of Jesus. And so, Wayne, what hits you when you think about Jesus becoming a baby and humbling himself and entering into our lives and into these homes? What hits you?
I mean, just spending time meditating on that reality, right? That you have this people that are waiting for the coming of this promised Messiah, this coming of this promised King that would free them from the bondage of sin and death and everything else. And then you start thinking about this King that's gonna come, this promised Messiah, and it's God Himself. It's God Himself. It's God Himself that's coming. He is the prophesied King that's coming. And you mentioned like this baby, he comes in the most vulnerable form. A baby, a child, a baby. And it's called the incarnation, right? He comes in the most vulnerable form, the incarnation, where God puts on flesh. He enters humanity for humanity's salvation. And there's this gift that God has given to us, that John 3:16, God so loved the world that He gave His only Son. And that's that gift that's being given to us. But I think that if we don't think about the contextual, the backdrop that all of this is happening in, there are some things that we can miss along the way if we don't think about like everything that shapes and forms this. If we start the story from that moment, if we start the story from this moment where the baby arrives, where the Messiah baby arrives, what missed something? This is Christ. This is the King of Kings. So I think about Colossians 1 verses 15 through 17. Paul, he is talking about this Christ, this King that we celebrate on every time on Christmas Day. And he says this, I'm gonna read it. He says, the Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in Him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, both visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through Him, for Him. He is before all things, and in Him all things hold together. This is the person that we're celebrating. This is that baby. And what you see here, Paul, he points out that all things in heaven and earth, both visible and invisible, was created by this child, this baby, but not as a baby. You look at this and you realize that the work that God has been doing, the work that Christ has been doing, predates the incarnation. right? He's been working from before. You think about the creation narrative that we read in Genesis, that's Christ at work, right? All things created by him, through him, for him. You read that narrative, you're looking at Christ at work and stuff, creating planets and animals and human beings and spiritual beings. This is Christ at work. And Paul says that he is holding all things together, which is mind-blowing. You think about the wisdom of God inside of his holy mind, that the way that he creates, the way he shapes and he forms all of humanity, all of existence is with these laws that will naturally bind things to him. These laws, right? That naturally bind things to him, laws that when broken lead to disaster, right? Laws that when broken lead to disaster, like jumping off of a building and stuff and trying to think you're gonna break the law of gravity will lead to disaster. Same way, the law of dependence on God, when that's broken, it leads to disaster. And in God's and his all-knowingness, when you think about it, is creating the planets, creating the earth, and all these things, and knowing as he's creating it, humanity will plunge all of it into bondage, all of it into this vicious cycle of sin and death, and it'll take nothing left than an act of God himself to restore things, right? But what's mind-blowing is that this is all inside God's mind while he is creating. While he is creating and stuff. And for us, the incarnation means salvation and freedom. But what does it mean for God? What does it mean for God? I'll say what it means for God, the incarnation, that whole process, it means exiting his heavenly shalom to enter the brokenness of man. It means putting on flesh and subjecting himself to the laws that he created for us to sustain things. It means knowing that it only took 7 days to create all of existence, but now he's entering into this 9-month process to be born into our distortion of his existence, of the existence that he created. It means putting himself in a position where he would have to depend on his own creation to survive. Wow. It means that he would have to depend on a mother breastfeeding him. He would have to depend on parents that will carry him because he can't walk yet. He would have to depend on parents who would feed him so he doesn't starve, or clothe him so that he doesn't freeze to death. This is what he enters into. And then, just long story short, in order to rescue us, he would have to do something that he's never done before, which is humble himself. All of that is a humbling process. He would humble himself, and the incarnation is all about this creator God who humbles himself to rescue his creation. That right there is blowing my mind, the humility of God to give this gift to us.
Yeah, and that's why so many people missed Jesus, because they thought he was going to come as some big king who would have all the money and all the this and all the, everything that the world says is impressive. But this God, who is bigger than all of that, humbles himself. That's mind-blowing. The thing that really hits me is that not only does he humble himself, he comes close to his creation. When I think about God's love and goodness towards us, sometimes in the Christmas season, people feel like God is so far away. And they feel that in so many times of their life, but it just magnifies in this season because they feel like, man, everybody has family and everybody has gifts and everybody has happiness around them. And they just feel so alone and they feel so separated. But I want to remind us, and I want us to be reminded that when we celebrate this baby, he is coming close to his creation, which means he's coming close to you. He's coming close to me. He is a God who loves to be close and hands-on with his creation, which is so different than celebrities. This is why a lot of people miss the gift of Jesus, is because celebrities seem so impressive because they're far away from you.
Right.
They seem so impressive because they're on the big screen, they're up doing their thing, showing their talents, and then you look at that celebrity and you're like, man, they would be so funny and they would be so incredible. It must be so great to be around them. And it's almost like you can create in a celebrity the type of person you think they are.
Yeah.
But it's because you're not close to them.
Right.
And so what Jesus does, instead of staying distant from us, is he comes close, and not just close, he comes close and becomes a baby, and he becomes warm and takes on flesh, and he's not just on a screen or on tablets. He comes close to us and he takes on flesh and he dwells among us. That actually Jesus is Emmanuel. He's God who's close to us.
Yeah.
And so I hope that today we don't miss the gift because it's not so big and so impressive, but it's humble. And I hope we don't miss the gift because it's not far away and something we can imagine, but it's close. That Jesus is the God who humbled himself and became close. And I'm hoping that as we open our gifts today, we'll pause and think of the true gift and go, Lord, don't let us miss the gift that is close to us and is humble and is a part of our lives, that the incarnation, this baby Jesus that we are worshiping, is the best gift of all. Something we want to do is, Wayne's going to give us a couple of questions to think about, because we don't want to just preach to you today. I'd love for you guys to take a moment in your homes and think of, why is the incarnation, or why is Jesus being born in flesh so important? What's some questions you think of?
I mean, just for starters, as you think about this gift coming close to us and stuff, and you guys at home taking this opportunity to just marinate on that reality, to meditate on it. For starters, I would love for you guys to just think about, like, why is Jesus the better gift?
Yeah, I like that.
I know a lot of you are looking at what gifts you got or what gifts you didn't get, but I want you to think about this. Why? Why is Jesus the better gift? Think about that. Share that with one another inside your home. Why is Jesus the better gift? And while you're thinking about why is Jesus the better gift, I also want you to think about what are ways that God has led people to be a gift to you that required their humility to do that. What are some ways? People that have been a blessing to you, a gift to you in one way or another, but it required their humility to do that. They had to humble themselves to do that. And probably text them and tell them thank you. Call them and tell them thank you. You have been a gift to me. But lastly, also think about yourself. What may be some ways that God may be calling you to humble yourself, that you may be a gift to somebody else? When we think about all these things, God wants us to reflect his image and likeness inside of the world. This means coming close to others and being a gift to others. This means knowing that the best thing that you can offer them is Jesus, who is the better gift. So we love you guys. Pray that you spend some time with looking over these things, fellowshipping, displaying the love of Christ with one another. Be blessed. Merry Christmas.